So guys, the Destiny Rising closed alpha is now available for people to play if they have received a code or got accepted in via the sign up on their website. Sadly, I was not able to get a code or be invited, but other people have been, and the game itself does look really fun. But today we're going to be taking a look at the game post article where they have compiled all of the characters and their abilities, and then I've also found out what weapons these characters also have access to. So we're just going to compile all that information here into one video for you guys today. Now, before we get into it, as always, if you're going to enjoy this video or find it helpful, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I would very much appreciate it. And with that all being said, let's jump into the first character here, which is called Attal. And Attal is able to use a hand cannon and a fusion rifle as her two main weapon options. Now, for her abilities, her super is called Song of Faith, where Attal levitates and enters her super, during which she can fire bird-shaped arc projectiles at combatants. Her signature is called Arc Missile, where Attal fires an arc missile that ricochets between targets, dealing damage and inflicting blind. She then also has Mind Mend, where it immediately heals a specified ally once. Her passive, called Mint, states that Attal has a peregrine made of arc light called Mint. Where there is an ally near her reticle, she can command Mint to fly to them by using her melee attack. Mint restores 80 health per second for the ally it's linked to. The weapon mastery is called Tranquility, where inflicting Serenity via Arc Missile or healing via Mint or Mint Mend restores Attal's Tranquility. When it's full, Attal's next reload will consume all Tranquility to add mini missile to her drawn weapons magazine. This enhances the whole magazine for a hand cannon or the first shot for the magazine of a fusion rifle. And then she also gets a movement speed bonus of +5. And then her trait is called Song of Peace, where Mint's super activates when Attal's does, significantly improving its healing while its super is active. It will heal all allies within a 6-meter radius and restore 96 health per second for 20 seconds, and Attal's super is timed independently of Mint's. And she also has Speak Softly, where hitting the same target multiple times with mini missiles inflicts Serenity, and then First Aid, where Mint Mend now has 2 charges. Moving on to the next character, we have Kabr, who uses a scout rifle and a machine gun. His super is called Voltaic Slam, where he uses Storm Shield to fire a powerful arc beam, striking and inflicting combatants with blind within the end of the beam's range. Then enter super state, during which multiple strikes can be launched. His signature, Resist a Barricade, creates a barrier that blocks incoming fire. He then also has Blinding Shield, where you strike an enemy with an arc-infused overshield that damages and inflicts blind. His passive, Home Core, inflicting blind with abilities, triggers instant health regeneration. This effect can trigger up to once per second and prevents interruption for 1 second. He then also gets the movement speed bonus of a +5 increase to his movement speed. And then for his weapon mastery, he has Safeguard Lightning. Weapons that fire bullets through the arc barrier become enhanced by the power of thunder, creating chain lightning that can strike up to 4 targets, dealing 1,885 arc damage, triggers up to once per second. His trait, Blinding Barrier, the barrier inflicts enemies that go through it with blind for 2 seconds. Then also has Lightning Flash, where while hitting targets with super, a flash area with a radius of 5 meters is created at the location of the explosion for 2 seconds, dealing 225 arc damage to enemies within it every 0.5 seconds and inflicts blind for 5 seconds. Then he also has Energy Constraints, where the arc barrier's maximum duration is increased by 15 seconds. Moving on then, we next have Wolf, who was actually your starting character in this game. His super is called Wolf's Butchery, where during super, Wolf launches a series of solar attacks and increases damage dealt by attacking consecutively. While in use, Wolf gains max lupine nature and grants nearby allies Wolf's Dash. His signature, Wolf's Strike, strikes combatants ahead, dealing solar damage, and final blows with this ability recharge it. He then also has Wolf's Flames. Wolf strikes with a power flame, dealing solar damage to targets in range and inflicting them with Wolf's Ignition. He then also has his passive, called Wolf's Awakening, where Wolf accumulates lupine nature over time. Reaching 120 lupine nature will enhance Wolf's Strike, increasing its range and damage by 100%. Using an enhanced Wolf's Strike also replenishes 40% of Wolf's shield for 4 seconds and resets lupine nature. Wolf recovers 3 lupine nature per second while in combat and 4 per second while out of combat. Ability Final Blows grant additional lupine nature, defeating common combatants grants 20, and defeating elite and stronger combatants or other light bearers grants 40. He then also gets a movement speed bonus of +5, and his weapon mastery is called Wolf's Combustion. When shots hit targets scorched by Wolf's ignition, they will trigger Wolf's Combustion, dealing an additional instance of solar damage equal to 60% of triggering shots damage. He then has a trait called Searing Offensive, where using Wolf's Flame grants Wolf's Dash for 8 seconds. When Lupine Nature is full, Wolf will also gain the Enhanced Wolf's Flame ability. Enhanced Wolf's Flame will launch 2 Wolf's Ignition Strikes with a 100-meter large radius. This ability will also grant Wolf a 40% overshield that lasts 4 seconds, and using an Enhanced Wolf's Flame will clear all Lupine Nature. It then also has Infernal Claw, where if a target's health is below the finish threshold after taking ability damage from Wolf, they will be instantly finished off. And then Bane of the Mighty. When an elite or stronger combatant are scorched by Wolf's ignition, Wolf deals an additional 20% damage to them. Moving on, we then have Jolder, who uses as her weapons an SMG and a sword, but her super is called Barrier of Starlight, where it creates a spherical shield that can block enemy projectiles and provides a powerful overshield to protect allies within. Her signature is Shield of Starlight, where you throw a shield of starlight that ricochets between enemies, striking them quickly and accumulating starlight. Recalling the shield will convert the starlight it has accumulated into an overshield. She then also has Skyfall Slam, where you jump and smash targets with a shield, drawing targets' fire and inflicting them with suppression. Affected targets provide significantly more rage upon attacking you. Her passive is then called Fawns, where Jolder accumulates rage whenever she or the Barrier of Starlight is attacked. Using Skyfall Slam will convert the accumulated rage into healing that lasts for 8 seconds, with a base recovery of 66. The higher her rage is, the faster she will heal, and when rage is full, recovers an additional 160 increased health. Overflow healing will be used to restore her overshield if she is protected by one, and rage will gradually fade when restoration is triggered. She then also gets the +5 movement speed bonus, and her weapon mastery is called Mayhem's Star. Jolder gains a retribution stack when she or her Barrier of Starlight is attacked, which lasts for 10 seconds and grants a 15% weapon damage bonus per stack. Stacks up to ×10, and sword attacks consume 1 stack per hit, and all other weapon attacks consume 1 stack per 10 hits. Her trait is called Amplify. Using Starfall Slam recharges all abilities based on the amount of rage spent, and in Shattered Hatred, rage accumulates 50% more effectively for each surviving ally on the field, up to 100%. She then also has Rite of Struggle, where Skyfall Slam cannot be suppressed, and casting it grants Jolder control immunity for 3 seconds. Moving on to the next character here, we have Maru, whose weapons are a light GL and a heavy GL. Her super is Blight Volley, where Maru enters her super state and rapidly fires explosive energy projectiles from a collapsing cannon. Resonance enhances the firing performance and damage of the collapsing cannon in real time. Her signature, Annihilation Blast, shoots a cannonball that deals damage and knocks targets back. Resonance determines the cannonball's damage. The explosion creates 3 smaller shells when at 50% resonance or higher. She then has Abyss Engulf, where a vortex barrier forms at the collapsing cannon's muzzle, converting engulfed bullets and explosive energy into an overshield. Resonance affects the duration of the overshield in real time, and when resonance reaches 50% or more, the barrier gains a large protection range. A passive called Collapse, dealing or absorbing damage with the collapsing cannon, provides resonance with it, enhancing all of Maru's abilities. Losing health or shield will result in the loss of resonance, and the higher Maru's resonance is, the faster she will lose it. She then also gets the 5% movement speed increase, and her weapon mastery is called Blast Resonance. When resonance is 50% or higher, light or heavy grenade launcher shots will produce 3 void elemental split shells, each dealing 40% damage on the main round. Her trait, Energy Reserves, the barrier generated by Abyss Engulf will recharge Annihilation Blast when it absorbs damage. Then also has Void Seeker, where once resonance is 50% or higher, the energy projectiles fired by Maru's super can travel up to 45 meters and gain the ability to track combatants within a certain angular range upon launch. Then also has Final Wish, where defeating targets with Blight Volley refunds up to 100 super energy depending on the target. Base combatants grant 10%, elite combatants 20%, and powerful and stronger combatants grant 30%. Next up, we have Ning Fei, who can use an SMG and a crossbow for his main weapons, and his super is called Arts of Staff, where Ning Fei enters his super and launches a series of arc melee attacks, during which his attacks trigger chain lightning, damage dealt by clones is also increased, and they can block attacks with the staff. His signature side trick dodges and creates a clone. Clones constantly chain lightning attacks, and being near one increases Ning Fei's movement speed and damage resistance. They can sustain damage and heal through attacks. There is a limit to how many clones can exist at one time. Next, he then has Lightning Strike, where leaps and slams down at targets in front of him, dealing arc damage and inflicting suppression. Clones will simultaneously attack with Lightning Strike. His passive is then called Dance of Sparks, where chain lightning damage from Ning Fei and his clones inflicts arc disarray for 8 seconds. He then also gets the movement speed plus 5 increased bonus, and then his weapon mastery is called Arc Overload. Using an ability grants 6 Arc Overload stacks. His trait, called Mind Mend, when a clone deals damage, it heals Ning Fei for 40% for the damage dealt, based on initial damage. He then also has Lightning Fast Reload, where casting a signature ability grants Lightning Fast Reload effect. And he also has Impetus, where final blows with Arc Staff replenish 10% super energy up to a maximum of 50%. Next up, we have Tan 2, whose weapons are a Scout Rifle and a Sniper Rifle. His super is called Blessing of Light, where Tan 2 leaps into the air and plunges the Parahelion wing into the ground, forming a blessed area that buffs allies based on his flare. His signature is called Sunset, where Tantu throws either a ball of light that heals allies or a fireball that deals damage to targets based on his current flare. He then has Twilight Shift, where switches Tantu's flare between Dawn Star and Dusk Star, and then his passive, called Flare, Tantu accumulates flare by dealing weapon damage. When Scout Rifle and Sniper Rifle shots hit combatants, they grant 3 and 16 flare respectively. When the current flare is fully charged, the next sunset or sunrise will be enhanced, gaining additional effects. He then gets the movement speed plus 5 benefit and a weapon mastery called Phosphorus, where casting an enhanced sunset or sunrise grants Tantu Phosphorus for 8 seconds. We then have his trait called Efficient Conversion, where hitting targets with Scout Rifle and Sniper Rifle shots provides an additional 3 and 14 flare respectively. He then has Flare Whip, where while Blessing of Light is active, tapping the super button again will switch its effects, and the cooldown between switches is 3 seconds. He then has Phoenix, where Phosphorus heals Tantu for 240 health per second and grants 2 increased flare recovery and 20% increased movement speed. Next up we have Finnala, who uses an auto rifle and a sword. Her super is Reaper's Descent, where while her super is active, Finnala can perform a sustained spinning attack and inflict Scorch, making combatants more likely to attack her. Her signature, Burnary Flames, Finnala leaps and spins to displace surrounding enemies, then quickly descends to deal massive solar damage and inflict nearby targets with Taunt. This will also cause targets inflicted with Scorch to instantly take all the remaining damage. She then has Blazing Barrier, where she spawns a blazing barrier that follows Finnala, reducing the damage of any incoming ranged attacks that pass through it by 50% and inflicting Scorched on combatants that it touched. A passive, Ember of Tempering, if an attack defeats a combatant inflicted with Scorch, one fire sprite will spawn at their location. Approaching or firing the fire sprite will grant 1 stack of Ember. She then gets the movement speed bonus of plus 5 and a weapon mastery called Fiery Empowerment. While Blazing Barrier is active, Finnala's bullets and sword attacks inflict 1 additional Scorched stack on hit. Her trait is called Unending Stream, where every 1 target defeated with Venereal Flames refunds 20% energy for Venereal Flames up to 60%. She then has Flame Jet, where while the Blazing Barrier is active, bullets that hit combatants deal 450 solar damage to all targets within a 4-meter radius of the initial target and inflict 1 stack of Scorched, and this effect can be triggered 1 time every 1 second. Sword attacks that hit combatants deal 450 solar damage to a single target within a 6-meter radius of the initial target and inflict 1 stack of Scorched, and then she also gets Flame Armor, where each stack of Ember grants 8% damage reduction. We then move on to Ikora, whose weapons are a light GL and a rocket launcher. Her super is called Nova Bomb, where she shoots a supernova that slowly flies forward and explodes upon collision, dealing massive void damage. Her signature, Gemini Satellite, shoots 2 Void Satellites, each tracks a target independently and explodes upon collision, dealing damage. She then has Gravitational Collapse, where Ikora shoots a small star that pulls targets in and deals damage over time. A passive, Mass Accretion, consecutive final blows or assists grant Ikora 3% base ability recharge. A single ability can receive up to 20% recharge in a short time frame. She then gets the +5 movement speed bonus and a weapon mastery called Neutron Rebirth, where blast damage from Ikora's abilities, excluding continuous effects, grants 1 charge of Neutron Rebirth per combatant hit, stacks up to 6 times. The next light grenade launcher or rocket launcher projectile fired can consume up to 2 stacks of Neutron Rebirth to split into 2 additional minor void satellites that automatically track combatants within an 8-meter range and deal 1900 void damage to combatants within a 4-meter radius. Her trait, Dimensional Expanse, Neutron Rebirth can now be stacked up to 12 times. She then also has Engulfing Supernova, where Nova Bomb amplifies Nova Bomb with each hit target, increasing the blast damage dealt by 10% up to a maximum of 30%, and then also Trans-Dimensional Tracking, where it increases Minor Void Satellite's duration to 5 and its tracking range to 20 meters. And next up, we have finally Estela and Gwenn. Now I'm doing these characters last because these ones are actually a part of the limited banner, which should be unlocked in the alpha in a couple days or so. So first up, Estela uses a pulse rifle and a machine gun as her main weapon. Her super, Violent Reverie, summons a powerful Violent Reverie to continuously attack combatants by firing a contaminating beam. Her signature, Bewitched Illusion, Estela summons a bewitched illusion to join the battlefield and fight combatants on its own. The more corruption she has accumulated, the higher the level of the summoned bewitched illusion will be. Higher level bewitched illusions deal greater damage. She then has Misfortune's Guide, where it inflicts misfortune on a target, making them prioritized by and take additional damage from all illusions. Her passive, Contamination, attacking targets with weapons accumulates corruption. This effect can trigger up to 10 times per second. Casting Bewitched Illusion consumes corruption to create illusions which have 3 levels corresponding to different corruption costs. She then also gets the movement speed +5 bonus and a weapon mastery called Distorted Desires, where every 10 weapon attacks that hit targets inflicted with misfortune will trigger an accident, dealing 2,755 solar damage and generate an additional 5 corruption. If a target is defeated while inflicted with misfortune, Estela will gain additional corruption equal to 7 times the number of accidents they suffered. Her trait, Calamitous Pandemic, combatants affected by misfortune spread misfortune to nearest combatants within a 10-meter radius when they are defeated, dealing 2,900 solar damage. However, the duration of misfortune is reduced by 2 seconds after each spread until it reaches a minimum of 4 seconds. A single instance of misfortune can spread up to 5 times. She then also has Dream Aid. While Violent Reverie is present, all combatants' misfortune countdowns will be paused and corruption will be accumulated with 60% more efficiency. Then she also has Wound Consolidation, where combatants affected by misfortune will be affected with Disable Heal. And then finally we have Gwenn, who uses a SMG and a shotgun as her main weapons and has a super called Soul Harvest. Gwenn summons Verdict and enters her super, instantly gaining several Void Spirit while her super is active. Gwenn draws in and stores Void Spirit generated by final blows. Her signature, Soul Assault. After a short delay, Gwenn blinks towards the target location, inflicting suppression and dealing damage to nearby targets. She then also has Void Dance, where Gwenn whirls in a deadly dance, dealing void damage to targets in range and healing herself. Additional effects will be triggered if there are any nearby Void Spirit. Her passive, Energy Severance. Gwenn's ability, weapon, finisher, or melee final blows generate a Void Spirit at the target's location. This effect has a 1-second cooldown. She then also gains the +5 increase to movement speed and has a weapon mastery called Penetrating Shot. If 15% of the bullets in a single SMG mag hit the same target, their soul will be shattered, creating a Void Spirit at the location. This effect has a cooldown. If 50% of the bullets in a single shotgun magazine hit the same target, their soul will be shattered, creating a Void Spirit at their location. Her traits include Void Waltz, where consuming a Void Spirit refunds 30% of Void Dance's energy, and when in super state, the refund is increased to 50%. She then also has Light Extraction, where 100% of the excess healing from Void Dance and Soul Assault will be converted into an overshield that lasts for 4 seconds. And then she also has Moribund Joy, where the lower the health, the higher the healing of Soul Assault, up to 200%. And that is every single character within the beta. Like I said at the beginning, expect some of this stuff to potentially change within the full release of the game. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.